What's up, y'all? My name is Namir.
And I'm Roxanne.
And we are
Becoming the Branches! This is a podcast where we share who we are.
And who God has called us to be. It's a process. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of our Becoming the Branches podcast. Woo! Y'all, you guys have been enjoying these little conversations. Our sit downs. And I'm happy that you guys do, okay? Because we do too. I'm drinking some cranberry juice while we talk and have a conversation. So, babe, what are we going to talk about today?
So today we're going to talk about Roxy's favorite topic, which is... What is her favorite topic? It's her favorite topic. She be so passionate.
I am.
About God's best for you and why you shouldn't settle for nothing less than God's best. Okay, title.
Ooh!
Why you shouldn't settle for nothing less but God's best.
Yes, sir.
That's so good.
It is so good. And you know, the reason why I am so passionate about this topic is because backstory, okay? So before Namir, I was in this super short relationship.
Toxic.
And I literally thought that relationship, that person was God's best for me.
But God had his best somewhere else.
I thought that, this is the person God has for me. And that was that until I found out that wasn't the case. So from then I went on to, on this journey with the Lord where I just was, pretty content with where I was. But also I realized that, God has someone for me, and clearly the person who I was with was not God's best. Hence why it didn't end up the way I desired or hoped for. Mm-hmm. So when I met Namir, because actually before that I had received a prophetic word about, who, the Lord has for me, whatever the case may be. So when I met Namir and I realized that I didn't have to force things, I realized that he was pursuing me. I realized that he was demonstrating the very thing that the Lord spoke, right? Also, he demonstrated characteristics of Jesus. So I was like, you know what? Okay, the Lord is unto something concerning his best, right? And I remember my spiritual mom, she believes in the one, whatever the case may be. But I want to know, do you guys believe in the one? Let's just stick a pin. Do y'all believe in the one? If you guys do, comment below and let us know. So, he was just demonstrating all these different things. And I realized that, once I got engaged, I started to see women around me settling. And just settling, one, because a person was pursuing them, settling their morals, their values, all these different things. And I was just like, the Lord wouldn't put you in a relationship where you're having to settle. Put aside your belief. Put aside what your morals and your values are. Put aside all these different things that He has placed inside of you for some man. So
or some woman.
But in my case, I was seeing women around me settling, and I was just like, only if you guys knew that God has someone for you guys and it's His best. Because I believe that the Lord He has someone that fits the plans and the purpose and the destiny that He has for your life. It won't be a situation where you guys are unequally yoked. It won't be a situation where there's friction, but it's in a negative way. Because there should be some kind of friction in the relationship. Friction is healthy.
Because iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, for sure. And if it's negative, then this is probably not it.
Right. It's so, and I think that's very true too. Because we were talking about it, but even I think. One of the things that I hear people say, and Roxy, we've kind of talked about this with some of our friends, when you ask people well, what's on your list, right? Mm-hmm. And then people go, I want someone that's God-fearing. I want somebody that's prayerful. I want somebody that's Christian. But to Roxy's point about being unequally yoked or being equally yoked, which is God's desire, God would never give you someone that would turn your heart away from God, which is funny because even like this week I was studying I was reading like First Kings, and I was learning about Jeroboam and Solomon and so on and so forth. And it's like, I remember like God said, he told them in Leviticus and in earlier chapters not to marry anybody that was not of the same faith or, have these pagan practices because they were going to make them worship other gods. So God will never give you somebody that will cause you to turn your heart away from God or to turn your interest or to turn away from him. That's not his desire for you. So the fact that that is on our list to be equally yoked or unequally yoked or something like that, at least for I want somebody to be Christian or God fearing. Like that's a given. Like that's the foundation.
Yeah, that's foundation. I would tell people every time I hear that, I'm like, so you feel as though the Lord would give you someone who's not a Christian? Like what kind of father do you think we have? That's foundation. That's basic. Or that's a given. Oh yeah, of course, whoever God has for me will be a Christian. Of course, So, I would see women just settle. I would just see them being in relationships for so long and there's no progression.
No fruit.
No fruit. And it's what is happening? Sis, you are worth so much more than that. I know Namir and our engagement was longer than most Christian relationships that I've seen or I've been around, where it's a few weeks or 3 months or maybe a little over 3 months, but our engagement was 7 months.
Yeah.
And
news to me, but I don't know much about Christian courtship, engagement, da.
Yeah. So, I was so used to seeing, men knowing and pursuing and doing the right thing. And when I started to see women just I feel it starts from your heart, or how you view yourself or your identity, right? If you don't realize or understand that you're worth it, you just allow any man to come your way and to just take up your time, to waste your time, and to take you off the path that the Lord has you on or have you on.
Right.
So yeah, I was I started to get really passionate about that because I'm guys, only if you knew God has his best for you. He has someone that he created just for you, and he has this person who will help propel you into the way that you ought to go, right? So yeah, that was just pretty much my whole journey as to why I started to really just share with women that, hey, you're worth so much more and that God has his best for you.
Yeah, and to go back to what Roxy mentioned earlier about when she asked, do you guys believe in the one? I don't believe there is a one because, and I'll tell you why. Because in actuality, when you think about if the premise and the concept of the one is true, because of the factor that we have free will is in there. If the one does not choose us, if Roxy didn't choose me and she was allegedly my one, does that mean that God's promise or proclamation of me being married is voided?
Question mark? Answer below.
Exactly. That would if that is the case and if that was true, that would say that Roxy's will bypasses the sovereignty of God, which we know cannot happen. Yeah. In any way, shape, or form. That just defeats the purpose. I would have still been married to somebody. It just wouldn't have been Roxy. And even times we see that where it's just well, Lord, I believe this person was my husband. And, getting past the witchcraft or the deception or, our own flesh and all the things that we kind of ignore in the signs. Sometimes it's not God. And sometimes we do believe it's God. And sometimes we get it mixed up and that happens and whatever the case may be. But there's not a single person that God has for us that can only be the one. Because if that person, again, does not choose us because we all have free will, and God's not going to make anybody manipulate you or force you to be married to that person because at that point, guess what that is? Witchcraft.
It's witchcraft.
And that's not, God is not witchcraft.
He doesn't operate in witchcraft at all. So, and I had several opportunities to be yeah, no, I'm going to just walk away from this relationship. Right. Not when we got engaged, but when we were courting and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I could have been oh yeah, no, this is not it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know where I was.
It's okay. But even with that said, with So, like, from a larger concept, like, I don't believe personally that there is a notion of the one. I think there's candidates for people. So even now, like, as we're talking, like, the Holy Spirit's giving me like an analogy, and I'm thinking about silverware, right? Because you can use a knife and a fork. You could use a knife and a spoon. You could use a fork and a spoon. You could, like, it's not just a single way that you could use it, right? But there's different options that's available to you. Similarly, it is with us. Like, the Lord will give us different candidates of people that he thinks will be great for us and for our marriage, for what he's called us into, going back into that grace factor, going into that peaceful factor. Now, when you go back to the original, in Genesis, when God had made Eve from Adam's rib, Eve was the best for Adam because at that time, there was no other woman. He didn't make any other woman. That was literally the best that he brought for her. Other than that, it was just animals and just, all the things, creatures. And none of those were suitable helpers for Adam, so that's why he made Eve. Now, even with that, Eve was the best for Adam, but we saw that when God presented Eve to Adam, Adam said, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. He was locked in. He was locked in. But if Eve hadn't chose him in that moment, although she was going to choose him because that's the only thing that she saw. That's the first man she saw too, by the way. First man. So they both seen each other. They got eyes. They locked in. It's a whole thing. But, with us now, modern day times, having free will, if we saw one another, we're not really feeling each other, although God is saying something about it, that doesn't mean that, like, we have to be forced into this relationship. Because there's a lot of times, too, that I've seen just in previous, I think, seasons of life where somebody does feel like that unction, like, the Lord told me this is my wife. And then they may not be attracted to that person. They may not like that person, but because they believe the Lord said whatever, they're, like, settling, like, okay. Like when Jacob got married to Leah, because he was hoodwinked and deceived by Laban. And he really wanted Rachel. And it's just like, okay, I'm married to her, but I'm trying to get to Rachel. So he was doing what he was supposed to do in that regard. But a lot of people are finding themselves in that situation where they're just settling because of proximity, because it's like, oh, we spent so much time together. I don't want to start over. I don't want to have to put myself out there. I heard the dating pool has pee in it. I heard in Christian spaces, secular spaces, it's the same. Like, I don't want to go through all that. So I'm just going to, okay, I know it's been 6 years, but I'm believing God that it's going, like, no, you are not believing God. You are believing the lie of your flesh, the lie of your heart, the lie of the enemy that says you have to settle for this, because my Bible tells me, according to Ephesians 3:20, that he does exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ever ask for or think. Isaiah 55:8 says that his thoughts are not our thoughts and his ways are not our ways. So even if I desire to settle for what may be familiar, there may be something that's completely on the opposite side of the spectrum that will help me, that will build me up, that will uplift me, that will encourage me, that will pull me out of my ordinary and propel me into my future and the extraordinary that God has called me to step into. So it's like, it's a whole level of deliverance, and like what Roxy mentioned about getting over yourself and through our own proclivities and our own issues, and really just coming into the forefold and realizing, like, there's not just one person for you, because if that one person doesn't work out, guess what? God has another person set up over here. Are you going to have to grieve? Are you going to have to cry? Are you going to have to process? Do you may need some deliverance? Yes. Do you need inner healing? Absolutely. But best believe that if God has called you into this thing and invited you into this thing, then there's provision for that thing. And if that's the case, then there's also some other people that's on the other side that's waiting for you. And sometimes, to be quite honest with you, some people need more time than we think to get their lives together.
And that's okay. That's why, like, I feel like we shouldn't rush into relationships. Like, yes, many of us want to get married. We want to, get engaged, all these different things. But, like, it's better to take your time and go through the process and go through the journey before stepping into covenant. Because covenant is huge. Like, once you get married, like, you're locked in. Like, we don't recommend, we don't promote, we're not, like, there's no D word. Period. Yeah. Right? And it makes me, to go back to your whole utensils analogy, I was thinking about this. This might be weird, but I was thinking about this. So, like, when you're eating chicken, right? Okay. Let's say you're eating chicken. You could use a spoon.
What kind of chicken is it?
Is
it fried, grilled, baked?
Let's say, I don't know, fried.
Okay. I felt like she was going to say fried, but I just wanted to ask.
Fried. Let's say fried,
You're
right?
eating fried chicken.
You're eating fried chicken.
Okay.
You could use a spoon.
You could. Or you could use a knife or a fork. Okay, I'm cutting into your thing. My bad. I'm sorry. You're eating chicken.
Yes, you're eating fried chicken. You could use a spoon, right? Look, okay, let's say you want to use a utensil, right? Okay. We're going to talk about the best utensil to use in this moment, right? Okay. You're eating chicken. You could use a spoon.
Okay. Uncommon.
But
possible.
Possible. But the best option would be to use a fork, right?
Yeah, for sure.
A fork. So in this case, what we're talking about is that like God has his best for you.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm just catching it. Because you could settle for the spoon.
You could settle for the spoon.
And the knife may help you a little bit more. But if you want to get that meat, if you want to get the meat out, you need a fork.
Yes.
Okay, preach.
I did good.
You're preaching. That's good.
I did good. Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that you could use, like, God has his best for you, right? And yes, I don't believe in the one because, hey, like, if the best is like, psych, I don't want to be with you, then, you know, the other option could be the case. So my thing is, like, guys, let's, like, understand that God has his best, right? Ladies, just understand that God has his best. He would not set you up for failure. Like, he would not set you up for just anybody.
Right.
Literally, not just anybody. Like, understand, not just anybody. He has someone who is top tier, who will treat you well, who will love you, who will care for you, who will, you know, treat you like, oh my gosh, like, you're the best thing since sliced bread, baby. Okay? Like, he will love you and, like, cherish you and know that you're valued and know how delicate you are, that he will just take his time with you. Okay? Like, it's precious, and I feel like some women need to understand. And if you have to go through deliverance and inner healing to get to that place and say, you know what, I'm not going to get into any relationship until I go through deliverance and actually more so inner healing, deal with all that soul stuff, the trauma, the anxiety, the hurt, the abuse, all that things, and then allow the Lord to come in and kick the strong man out through deliverance, all these different things before you get to that place. Or like even after the whole inner healing and deliverance, but like spending time with the Lord and like allowing the Lord to reveal himself to you in a new way and you to you, and then, you know, have him do what he needs to do in your life before you get to that place of, you know what, okay, my man of God, come find me. And let's talk about this Boaz thing. When are we gonna stop with that? Like, I feel like that's the only thing people talk about. Oh, my Boaz.
Yeah.
Why? Do you know why?
Why people only talk about Boaz?
Yeah, do you guys know why?
I think because what Boaz represented, right? So when you think about the story of Ruth, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Well, you think about like Ruth and like he was rich, he was wealthy, he was a family man, he had all these like desirable traits and characteristics, and then Naomi had kind of set Ruth up on the path of success to get her Boaz. But that's like, I think that's just one of the practical and most tangible examples we see in the Bible as far as like couples are concerned. At least like their love story. Because you don't see it. It's not as common. Like you could hear about Aquila and Priscilla, but you don't really know that. Like how they came together. Or you might be aware of like Adam and Eve, but you don't really like know.
I feel like that's you expressing that. It makes sense. But I feel like, girlies, y'all can agree with me on this. It's a whole, Boaz found Ruth. Like, they don't talk about the family man, the riches, all that stuff. They're like, oh, Boaz found Ruth.
Did he find her? I mean,
but she was positioned.
Exactly.
But then they're like, oh, well, she was in the field and he...
But even then, it's like sovereignty of God.
Let me know, guys, the whole Boaz thing, because I feel like, okay, I get the whole Boaz thing, yes, but come on, guys, like,
there's more.
There's like, I feel like we're too down here, like we're too surfacey, we're too low, like the Lord is trying to take us higher, and it's just like, if we don't have his perspective and his eyes and lens, we're not able to see from a heavenly place, right? Like we're sitting in heavenly places, but we need to also ask the Lord to give us his eyes so that we can see the way how he sees things. Because I'm like, the Lord is more than just Boaz. Like, it's more than just Ruth. It's more than just Deborah. Like, more like...
Yeah. And I mean, I think to Roxy's point, like there is so many things that I think there's a lot of things too, and it kind of takes me back to like the list place, but even like the analogy about utensils, because there's so many things that we put on these lists that are like superficial or maybe more physical or like simple, but they're not things that we really need. Like I always tell people too, when I do have conversations with people and we talk about like their list, what their anticipation is, like what are you looking for in a spouse? And then I'm like, okay, like all that sounds good, but what about somebody that folds the clothes because you washed them and they stay in the dryer?
Baby.
Is that on your list? What about somebody that
good.
likes to vacuum because you find that you can vacuum the living room, but the rest of the house you just lose energy and stamina? Is that on your list? Are you praying about that? Like, what about the person that loves to wash dishes and you have a tendency to leave the pots and the pans and the dishes in the sink for a while, and you know they need to be clean? Is that on your list?
Is that on your list?
But we're talking about all the other things that we want. Like, we really need people that can help us, right? And so to that conversation about Boaz, like Boaz had all these desirable traits and stuff that we saw in one instance, but we need the behind the scenes. And the only person that really knows the behind the scenes that you need for your life is the Lord. Because the truth of the matter is, even like when I go back to this analogy about the utensils again, Roxy mentioned eating chicken, right? Or like, and I think about it, like if I consider myself, like if we're supposed to be the silverware, right? Maybe the blessing is the chicken and the utensils are partaking in the chicken, right? To do whatever. And maybe we're trying to help God do whatever he's trying to do as a person that will eat the food, whatever the case may be. But it's just like, if I am a spoon and you are a spoon, we're not going to be able to get chicken out the best way.
Yeah, no.
You know what I'm saying? Or maybe the dish is spaghetti. If we both spoons, we finna have a hard time.
Oh, yeah.
Because how we gonna scoop that we need a fork. A fork and a spoon will work better. A knife may help a little bit, but it's not gonna be as effective. So even when you think about like the candidates and the people that God has for us, like God will make sure that the best possible utensils, the best possible candidates that he's called us to will come together in a way that will be most beneficial and helpful, not even just for ourselves, but for the kingdom of God and the blessings of God. Because you could be with a spoon all day, but if that spoon ain't trying to help you eat spaghetti, if that spoon is not trying to help you break the steak, if you got steak and you are a spoon, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
And you're a knife and you got a spoon. What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different utensils out here. There's so many different tools that the Lord is using. But what matters most is about the connection. What matters most is about the teamwork. What matters most is about the coming together of the two. Because if I'm using a salad fork for a steak, if I'm using a butter knife on a steak, I'm about to be cutting my whole for a long time trying to stuff.
Well, that's if it's well done.
But still, with a butter knife though. With a butter knife, it's going to take me a minute to kind of cut into that joint. But it's just like, again, like, what are you looking for? Or allow the Lord to like shift your perspective and really shortchange. Can we talk about your lid? Like, really cut your list down. Because why it's so long? Why you got to roll out the scroll and it's like, shh.
And the thing is, like, have you asked the Lord about your list?
Oh, Lord.
Line by line, item by item.
Like, have you, because I know you'd be like, trash, please. Like, we're just putting God in a box. Like, can we stop in 2025? Actually, right now, before we go into 2025, can we stop putting a lid on the Lord? Can we stop putting him in a box? Like, let's stop doing that. Like, we want the Lord to show up and show out for us. Like, even like my past relationship, that was that would have been an okay person.
Right.
But Namir's my best, right? And like, I love how like the Lord confirms things for us in our relationship, because an apostle came to our church and was like, you're sharper because of her. And,
he's sharper because of you.
Yeah, he's sharper because of you. And it's like, that's how it's supposed to be. Like, imagine being with someone and y'all not growing and y'all not becoming better. Like, what's the point? Like,
and it's so timely because like there's times I feel like we ask ourselves this question, like, or just like us talking about things like, if you weren't married right now, what would you be doing? Or if we go through certain situations or circumstances, and it may be something as simple as like, I forgot to close something, or Roxy did something like that, and it's just like, see, what would you do without me?
Yeah.
And we'd be like, living my life.
Yes! Oh my gosh! Yes, it's so true.
You know, but like her saying that, You know, when the apostle came,
true.
it was just like, we are sharper together. So it really does kind of like humble that aspect of our flesh that wants to rise up. Like, I'll live my best life.
Yes,
like,
he'd be like, oh, I'll be married. I'm like, no, you won't. Like, what?
She's like, I'm fine. I'll be good. I'll be straight. Like, no, you're not. Like,
yes.
What?
And like again, like it was like the Lord just come in and just be like, y'all need to get your stuff together.
Yes.
And know that I was the one who put y'all together and y'all needed to be together.
No, seriously.
So imagine, y'all, like imagine if your relationship was like that. Like imagine if you allowed the Lord to bring that person to you and or you finding that person. Like imagine
how beautiful it can be.
Yes, how beautiful. Even though things may come up, even though things might be uncomfortable, like God's best for you is just perfect. Like his best for you is just like one of a kind. Like, and when you're in it and you know that this is God's best for you, it feels right. Not like from a emotional place, but from a spiritual place as well. Like this feels like this is God. Like we can't deny it. No one can deny it. Even not like we're not saying we're looking for approval from man, but yes, there needs to be some kind of
some kind of testing and some kind of affirmation from like your authoritative figures in your life, spiritual leaders, so on and so forth, parents, family members.
Yeah, so there has to be that place, but at the same time, like there's like this knowing in your spirit that this is God's best for me.
Right, and I think the other thing to that too is like, the person that God does have for you will have grace for you. And I think that's such a powerful thing we don't think about, because even like there's certain things, and every relationship is going to go through its own level of set of challenges, conflicts, whatever the case may be. But if God's hand is on it and God has really brought you with the right person, that person has grace for you. There's a lot of times that me and Roxy may go through things and we don't necessarily like what we're seeing or experiencing from the other person, but we recognize that like of all the people that God has chosen and brought us together, that we have grace for one another. So like there's some things that we've been through or we talked about, even like when we were dating, about history or previous experiences and stuff. And it's just like, you forget that feeling. Like if I told anybody else this, I feel like they would have broke up with me and they would have walked away or done whatever. And then we're just like, okay, I don't like this. I need you to fix it. I'm going to pray for you and I'm going to cover you, but I'm here for you. I'm still going to choose you till the wheels fall off. And that means when we go into glory. But it's just like,
at the same time.
Exactly. But, you know, it's like having that level of commitment. Because when you're in a covenant, you're in a covenant. But when you're in God's covenant, you are in God's covenant. Like no ands, ifs, or buts about it. But I say that to say, like, the person that God has for you, they have that grace for you. Because certain people can't take it. Everybody not built the same way. Everybody not handled the same way. So when you settle, you're not gonna get the fullness. And I think that's what's so crazy. It's like you can always, and I tell people too, like you could always settle for like a D in a class. If you want to get a D or you want to get E, it's like, I'm just trying to make it through. If you want to get a C, you know, like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to grade your paper. I'm going to do what I have to do. But it's like, if you're trying to get an A, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to fast. You're going to have to pray. You're going to have to go through deliverance. You're going to have to go through inner healing. You're going to have hard conversations. You're going to have people that have eyes on you. You're going to have people that are praying for you and your person. You're going to have people that are testing and seeing what's inside of you and making sure that the things that need to surface, and the things that need to be addressed are addressed, so that later on there won't be any issues in your group project for you to graduate, you know? So it's like a whole thing that we have to go through. But like God's desire is to give you exceedingly and abundantly. God's desire is to give you the best possible person that he could have for you, not just for your sake and not just for you to have companionship, great sex, have a travel buddy or any of those things, but for God to produce godly offspring through you, one, for you to also both impact the kingdom of God, two, and for you also to be an example into the world about what Jesus looks like and what a healthy God-ordained marriage can look like to the world in such a fallen time. It's crazy.
It's good. I think that's good, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, share, show some love. We're trying to get to 150 subscribers.
Okay.
Soon. Soon, you know, yeah. So we love you guys so much. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at becomingthebranches and Roxy _ ROX. Is it underscore Roxy underscore or underscore Roxy?
I
keep forgetting. And then at Namir Branch.
One word.
One word. I think I keep forgetting my Instagram account.
I think it is though. I think you're right.
No,
yeah, it is.
It's not. At underscore Roxy. ROXCEE. Roxy. We love you guys so much. Take care.
Don't forget that becoming is a process that starts with God and ends with God too. We love you.
Love you guys.
Bye.